At 3:12 in the morning, the floor under my bed dropped an inch. The whole house lurched with a low, grinding groan like a semi driving through gravel directly beneath the foundation. My nightstand rattled, the blinds trembled, and somewhere in the dark, a framed wedding photo flopped face down. I shot upright, heart pounding. Another sound followed it. A muffled whump, and then voices. Right under my house. I stumbled out to the hallway, bare feet on cool hardwood, and heard it again. The unmistakable buzz of a power tool. From below. I grabbed my phone and dropped to my knees, pressing my ear against the floorboards. A faint light flickered through the narrow seam where the baseboard had separated from the wall. Dust drifted up like breath. A thin, metallic voice echoed from the void. Angle it left. We are under Lot 17's living room now. Lot 17. My lot. I scrambled for the crawlspace access door. I yanked it open, expecting to see dirt, pipes, spiders. Instead I saw open space. A rough-cut opening where solid ground should have been. A faint glow. The smell of fresh-cut earth. And there, a few yards away in a shoddy plywood-braced tunnel, stood two men in reflective vests with a rented jackhammer, staring at me like kids caught in the cookie jar. One of them blinked. He said, over the jackhammer's dying whine, "You are not supposed to be down here, sir. This is an authorized HOA project." I stared. "You are tunneling under my house," I said slowly. A third figure stepped into view behind them, wearing a blazer, pearls, and a neon orange safety vest over the whole thing like a deranged construction Barbie. It was HOA President Regina of Maple Ridge Crossing. "We prefer the term subterranean amenity corridor," she said primly, as my house literally creaked overhead. Before I discovered the HOA was mining under my house like suburban mole people, I just wanted a quiet place to code and grill. I was a mid-30s software engineer in Cedarfield, Oregon, who worked remotely, used my headphones religiously, and believed in 3 simple principles. Do not play loud music after 10. Return your shopping cart. Whatever an HOA is doing, you probably do not want to know. I had bought the Modest Craftsman on Juniper Loop precisely because it was at the edge of Maple Ridge Crossing, one of those master-planned communities with a brochure full of smiling families and suspiciously uniform trees. The HOA promised light touch governance and minimal aesthetic guidelines. I figured that meant do not paint your house neon and we are cool. Enter Regina. Regina had weaponized a bob haircut and a binder. Mid-50s, always in a blazer, always carrying a leather portfolio with Maple Ridge Board President embossed on it like she had been sworn in by Congress. She had taken over the HOA the way all Regina types do, quietly, through procedural ambush. The previous president moved away. They held a special election on a Tuesday at 3 p.m. in the clubhouse. 3 people showed up. Regina, her neighbor, and her neighbor's husband. Boom. Landslide. Within a year, Maple Ridge had a 12-page trash can placement policy, drone inspections Regina swore were just hobby flights, and an email list where she signed off as acting steward of community harmony. I stayed cordial and invisible. I paid my dues. I repainted my porch in an HOA-approved shade of misty beige regret. I swallowed the irritation when she sent me a friendly reminder that my backyard hammock visually disrupted the fence line. Then I got the letter about Phase 2, the Maple Ridge Lifestyle Enhancement Plan. Bold font. Full color. Way too many exclamation points. They were adding a lower-level community rec center and private resident tunnel access connecting select clusters to promote connectivity and year-round enjoyment regardless of weather. I skimmed it. Assumed they meant sidewalk improvements or another stupid gazebo. I did not, at any point, imagine Regina would take private resident tunnel access literally. And I especially did not imagine she would start that tunnel under my house. The weirdness started small. A hairline crack appeared in the drywall above my TV. I shrugged it off as normal settling. The next week, my hall closet door warped just enough that it would not stay shut. I grabbed a planer. Fixed it. Did not think twice. Then my coffee mug rattled off the counter at 11:43 p.m. No trucks outside. No storm. Just a dull, subterranean thud followed by a faint vibration. I went to the HOA website, more for curiosity than anything, and saw a new page. Phase 2 Substructure Activity Notice. Residents may experience minor vibrations and noise as we construct cutting-edge community amenities beneath pre-selected parcels. These improvements are fully permitted and structurally safe. Fully permitted. Structurally safe. I emailed Regina. Hi, Regina. Quick question. What does beneath pre-selected parcels mean? Are you tunneling under occupied homes? Signed, Noah, Lot 17. Her response arrived 4 minutes later. Hello, Noah. Thank you for your interest in the Maple Ridge Lifestyle Enhancement Plan. Per our consultant, all substructure work is approved and in compliance with applicable guidelines. The affected lots were chosen via a confidential algorithm to maximize community benefit. Please refrain from entering any construction access points, as this may void the HOA's liability protections. Harmoniously, Regina Cole, President, Maple Ridge Crossing HOA. Confidential algorithm. Void the HOA's liability protections. That was when I started a folder on my desktop titled Regina. Oh no. The noises increased. A low rumble at 2 a.m. A sharp crack from the crawlspace. Once, the sound of something metallic being dropped underneath my feet, followed by a muffled curse. I called a structural engineer friend across town. Is it normal to hear digging? I asked. From your foundation? No, she said. If they are doing real excavation, they need permits, geotech reports, shoring plans. You seen any notices from the city? Just Regina's letterhead, smug and unofficial. That is a red flag, my friend said. I checked the city's online permit portal. Nothing for Maple Ridge. Nothing for my block. Nothing at all remotely resembling subterranean amenity corridor. So I printed my HOA substructure activity notice, attached screenshots of the permit search, and emailed the city building department. 2 days later, I got a reply. We have no record of any approved tunneling or substructure construction in your development. Please call us immediately if you believe any such work is occurring. I forwarded that to Regina. Her response this time was spicier. Noah. Interfering with ongoing HOA projects by contacting external agencies creates confusion and threatens our group permitting process. All necessary approvals are being handled through our private contractors' channels. Future complaints should be directed through the HOA, not the city. Further escalation may be deemed harassment. Consider this your warning. Regina. Harassment. For asking the city if they knew about a literal tunnel dug under my house. That is when I bought the camera. I picked up a cheap inspection snake cam from the hardware store just to see. I popped open the crawlspace access at 3 a.m. during one of the vibrations, fed the camera into a suspicious crack, and watched the grainy feed on my phone. I expected to see dirt. Instead, I saw boots. And rebar. And a wide, freshly dug horizontal shaft braced with 2x4s that looked like Pinterest met OSHA and lost. One of the workers looked up, straight into the camera lens, then turned and shouted, "We got another one under 17. Tell Regina the floor is starting to float a bit." I slowly pulled the camera back, hand shaking, and whispered to myself, "Oh, they have lost their minds." The turning point hit on a Thursday, disguised as a plumbing emergency. I was on a work call when my Zoom flickered. The lights dimmed. Then I smelled it. That faint, sulfuric metallic smell that made my stomach drop. I hung up mid-sentence, killed power to the house at the breaker, and sprinted outside, barefoot again. I called the gas company, who told me to back away and wait. 15 minutes later, a gas utility truck and a fire engine pulled into Juniper Loop. The gas tech checked the street side valve, then my meter, then frowned. "Pressure dropped somewhere near your foundation," he said. "You got any excavation going on?" I pointed at the crawlspace. "Not by me." The tech opened the hatch, flicked on a vented work light, and froze. "What the?" he muttered. The firefighters peered over his shoulder. From the opening, they saw a rough tunnel extending laterally under at least 3 houses, unsecured gas lines sagging through midair where someone had dug out the soil underneath, a couple of PVC pipes literally hanging, unsupported, and a plastic sign stuck in the dirt that read, in printed Comic Sans, "Future Clubhouse Wing." There it was. The HOA's tunnel, discovered not by my camera or my emails, but because they had nearly turned my subdivision into a reenactment of a news disaster. The fire captain stood up and gave me a look somewhere between "I am so sorry" and "who let toddlers near infrastructure." "Sir, did you know they were doing this?" he asked. "I got a brochure about substructure amenities," I said weakly. "I thought it was marketing." The gas company shut off service to the whole block. The fire department cordoned off my house and 2 adjacent ones. Someone called the city. By evening, the scene outside Maple Ridge looked like the world's lamest block party. Fire trucks and utility vans. City building inspectors. A police cruiser. A slowly growing crowd of neighbors clutching HOA newsletters and looking increasingly betrayed. Regina arrived in a hurry, heels clicking on the pavement, clutching her leather portfolio. "What is the meaning of this?" she demanded. "You cannot just shut off gas to my residence. This is a sanctioned HOA project." One of the inspectors held up a hand. "Ma'am, we have no record of any permit for substructure excavation, utility relocation, or structural modification in this development," he said sharply. "And you are currently tunneling under occupied structures. That is illegal on about 5 different levels." Regina flashed her tight smile. "Our contractor assured us." The building official cut her off. "Your contractor is not the one who signed the HOA newsletter saying all substructure work was fully permitted." He held up a printed copy. Her signature at the bottom, neat and smug. The police officer stepped closer. "Mrs. Cole, I am going to need you to step aside while we talk to you about unauthorized excavation, possible criminal negligence, and misrepresentation to residents and the city." "What about him?" she snapped, pointing at me, who was standing barefoot in my yard hugging my laptop bag like a stress teddy. "He has been undermining this project from the beginning." He called the city. "He and his foundation are the reason this has gotten so complicated." The fire captain looked between us. "Ma'am," he said, "the reason this is complicated is that you dug a secret tunnel under his gas lines." I just lifted my phone and said, very quietly, "I have video from inside the tunnel. And every email you sent telling me to stop contacting the city." That was the moment something in the crowd snapped. One neighbor whispered, "She dug under our house?" Another said, "My baby sleeps over that crawl space." Someone else said, "I thought substructure amenities meant a basement gym." Regina's power base, built on fear of violation letters and passive-aggressive newsletters, started to crumble like the over-dug soil beneath Lot 17. Once the city saw the footage from my inspection cam and the photos from the fire department, things moved fast. The city building department issued an immediate stop work order on anything resembling construction in Maple Ridge. Bright red notice slapped on the HOA clubhouse door. All HOA-sponsored projects halted, pending investigation. The city also referred the matter to the State Contractor Licensing Board, the Department of Geology and Mines, because apparently that is who handles amateur mole people, and the Attorney General's Consumer Protection Unit. Regina responded the only way she knew how. With more letters. She emailed the community. "Do not speak to city officials without board approval. Rumors of danger are exaggerated. Certain residents, Lot 17, are spreading misinformation that could affect everyone's property values. Remember, the HOA is your shield." The problem for Regina was that now people had seen the actual tunnel. City inspectors, wearing hard hats and headlamps, went down for a closer look. They emerged covered in dirt, looking furious. Unengineered spans. No shoring calculations. They cut under load-bearing piers. "There is a whole section where they just guessed," one muttered to another. The State Contractor Board confirmed there was no licensed tunneling contractor involved. Just a landscaping company Regina had convinced to expand their services for extra cash. Under questioning, the landscaper turned over emails where Regina wrote things like, "The city does not need to know every little thing. Our HOA status gives us leeway as a semi-governing body. It is easier to ask forgiveness later if we are already enjoying the amenities." Those emails made their way into a big, scary-looking binder at the AG's office. I, meanwhile, was suddenly everyone's new best friend. Neighbors knocked on my door with printouts. "Can you add this to your records? Do you think our house is in the path too? Do we sue her?" or the HOA, or the landscaper, or all three. I built a shared cloud folder labeled Tunnelpocalypse, Maple Ridge Evidence, and started uploading everything. Photos from the crawlspace, video clips, Regina's newsletters, city responses. That one PowerPoint where Regina had presented the tunnel project with stock images of upscale European wine caves. The city asked if I would be willing to be the primary complainant, since my lot had the worst damage. I agreed. At the next emergency town hall meeting, held in the clubhouse under flickering fluorescent lights instead of the usual wine and cheese charm offensive, the vibe was different. The dais where Regina usually sat alone with her gavel now had a city attorney, a building official, a state AG representative, and me, in a wrinkled flannel and jeans, sitting at the far end with an overstuffed binder. Regina tried her usual "I will run this meeting" routine. I would like to call this session to. The city attorney cut in. Mrs. Cole, this is not an HOA meeting. This is an investigative hearing. You are here as a respondent, not a chairperson. Please sit down. The crowd murmured. I opened my binder when the AG rep nodded. Mr. Mercer, she said, can you walk us through what you discovered and how the HOA responded to your concerns? I did. I showed the video, the emails, the lack of permits, the gas leak call, the tunnel stretching under multiple foundations. When I finished, the AG rep turned to the room. For the record, she said, this is one of the most reckless abuse of HOA authority cases we have ever seen. People who used to flinch at Regina's emails now stared at her like she was the villain in a true crime documentary. Power. Gone. Fear. Reversed. The HOA queen had become the defendant. 3 months later, Maple Ridge Crossing HOA versus everybody exploded in both court and public opinion. The state AG filed a civil enforcement action accusing the HOA and Regina personally of operating outside the scope of their governing documents, undertaking unpermitted construction under occupied dwellings, misrepresenting permit status to homeowners, ignoring safety warnings, and, everyone's favorite, gross negligence with reckless disregard for structural integrity. The city piled on with code violations and fines. In court, Regina tried to spin it. The tunnel was a visionary amenity, her lawyer argued. Regina was acting in good faith, relying on contractor representations. The city's lawyer just pulled out the PowerPoint she had made titled Subterranean Lifestyle Revolution with her name on the cover. They played the crawlspace video for the judge. They showed the photo of the gas line hanging in midair. They read her email about it being easier to ask forgiveness later. The judge pursed his lips. Mrs. Cole, he said, forgiveness is typically sought for small misjudgments, not for secretly excavating beneath families' homes and nearly blowing up a block. Then came the structural engineer reports. Several homes had minor settlement and needed underpinning. My living room beam had lost 20% of its support due to soil removal. One neighbor's foundation wall showed early signs of lateral movement. Estimated total repair costs. Ugly. Then came the money trail. The HOA treasurer, desperate not to go down with Regina, had cooperated fully. Turns out they had raided the reserve fund for tunnel construction, reclassified the spending as landscaping enhancement, and applied a substructure amenity surcharge to dues without the required homeowner vote. The cherry on top. An internal memo from Regina to the board fantasizing about Phase 3, where they would connect the tunnel to a private speakeasy under the clubhouse for select residents who understand the vision. The judge destroyed them. In his ruling, he ordered the HOA to pay for all structural repairs, utility fixes, and soil remediation under professional supervision, imposed civil penalties on Regina personally for misrepresentation and negligence, barred her from serving on any HOA board or similar entity in the state for life, and placed Maple Ridge HOA under a court-appointed receiver, stripping the board of all power. But the real karmic thunderclap was this. Because the HOA reserves were now empty and they were responsible for enormous repair costs, the receiver recommended dissolving the HOA entirely and replacing it with a city-managed special assessment district with no aesthetic enforcement powers. Translation. Goodbye fines. Hello basic municipal maintenance. No more your wreath is 2 big letters. Ever. The courtroom buzzed. Regina opened her mouth like she wanted to argue, then shut it when her lawyer put a hand over hers with the dead-eyed look of a man who had worked too many HOA cases. The total fines and repair costs exceeded $400,000. Regina was personally liable for $150,000 of that total. Her face went pale as the judge read the final numbers. She gripped the table edge, knuckles white, and I heard her whisper something that sounded like "This cannot be happening." But it was.